All right. His Excellency Bapak Suharso Monoarfa, Minister of National Development Planning, Head of BAPPENAS, and also Ibu Valerie Julian, United Nations Resident Coordinator. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning and selamat pagi. It is a great pleasure for me, Rory, and it is a great honor for me to be your virtual host for the next 2 hours or so. And thank you very much for joining our forum this morning. Before we start, please allow me to read the housekeeping rules for our forum today. This is like a regular housekeeping rules, but please be mindful that this is very important for you to note. Please change your display name in Zoom by putting your name and institution so that we can easily recognize you and also mention your institution while the host lets you to speak or to comment. And then there's a simultaneous interpretation available in Indonesian and also in English. At the bottom of your Zoom page, you will see a button that looks like globe symbol. That is where you can access the interpretation both in Bahasa Indonesia and also in English. And would like to appreciate if you would register your attendance in the link provided in the chat room. This is super, super important. The link is unidn.me/attendance. So for those who haven't muted yourself, please do mute your audio. And this is very important, ladies and gentlemen, for you to get your name registered at the attendance list. And please also fill in your address, as the organizers would like to send some souvenirs to you, to your address right after this forum. And as with other important forum, all participants are muted and there will be Q&A session at the end of the plenary session. And also participants are welcome to provide comments, feedbacks, and also raise questions. And if you'd like to speak, please use the raise hand option on your Zoom screen, and you can then unmute your audio when the host calls on you. The link to access the all materials will be provided by the end of the forum. Don't worry, so rest assured with the materials on today's forum. All materials will be put in a link that will be given to you at the end of the forum. Once again, I would like to remind you, it is very crucial for you to mute yourself at the moment, ladies and gentlemen, so that the event and also the joint collaboration between the UN and also the government of Indonesia can proceed smoothly. Once again, please mute yourself. And I am very delighted that today we can all come together virtually to discuss our common agenda. And we are all still online, just to be on the safe side. And although we are very happy to see our country's progress in handling the COVID-19 pandemic and the ambitious vaccination drive performed by the government. And talking about today's agenda, this is a very, very important forum that brings together high officials from BAPPENAS, line ministries, UN agencies, and relevant stakeholders in Indonesia. And this forum also provides a great opportunity for us to reflect on the overall progress of the joint cooperation in meeting the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals agenda and to be better familiarized with the new UN Sustainable Development Cooperation Framework, UN SDCF. Excellencies, participants, ladies and gentlemen, we are now going to listen to the opening speech delivered by the Deputy Minister for Development Funding Affairs, BAPPENAS, Bapak Leonard Tampu Bolon. Pak Leo, the time is yours.
Your Excellency, Bapak Suharso Monoarfa, Minister of National Development Planning, Mrs. Valerie Julian, UN Resident Coordinator Indonesia, Country Directors and Representative of UN Agency in Indonesia, colleagues from UN agencies, BAPPENAS and line ministers, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon to all of you. Welcome. It is an honor for me to welcome you to the BAPPENAS UN Forum on Development Cooperation 2021. Thank you for accepting our invitation and attending this annual event. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, we convened the BAPPENAS UN Forum virtually for the second time in this year. This meeting stands out as it is bring together all parties who have been directly involved in the cooperation between the government of Indonesia and the United Nations. The purpose of today's forum is to assess how the United Nations Partnership Development Framework was implemented last year in 2020 and launched the United Nations Sustainable Development Cooperation Framework 2021-2025, which will serve as the framework for future cooperation between the government of Indonesia and US agency. I invite you all to reflect on our achievements and challenges, as well as the best way forward for the cooperation between the Indonesian government and UN, especially to advance Indonesia's development and to achieve SDGs. Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, I will briefly touch upon United Nations Partnership Development Framework as achieved in 2020 and what we can learn for United Nations Sustainable Development Cooperation Framework 2021-2025, which later may be elaborated by Ibu Valerie Julian. UNPDF 2016-2020 is a framework document of cooperation between the government of Indonesia and 24 UN agencies in Indonesia. This document is aligned with the National Medium-Term Development Plan and SDGs Agenda 2030. The UNPDF is a reference for the operationalization of UN agencies in Indonesia, which aim to achieve 4 priority sector targets, namely, first, poverty reduction, equitable sustainable development, livelihood, and decent work. Second, equitable access to social service and social protection. Third, environment, sustainable and enhanced resilience to shocks. And last but not least, improve government and access to justice. I have received the UNPDF 2020 report and take note the tracking, implementation, progress, and outcomes of cooperation, which benefit our most important stakeholder, the people of Indonesia. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I believe assessing our progress is only the first step towards a better and resilient cooperation. There is always room for improvement, both substantially in terms of priority target as well as in terms of technicality of implementation. Therefore, I hope that today's forum will not stop at the reviewing the result of UNPDF 2020, but also provide insight into future initiative and collaboration between government of Indonesia and UN agency. In this regard, the COVID-19 pandemic is the main challenge in implementing cooperation in 2020. During 2020, the pandemic causes us to reaching our objective and activities. Handling the COVID-19 pandemic requires the relocation of resources, both financial and human, which has caused several cooperation programs between the government of Indonesia and UN agencies to undergo adjustment. The COVID-19 pandemic in 2020 also reminds us that we still have weakness in some development area. We are still vulnerable. Digital technology gaps, supply and chain disruption, and other challenges are surfacing, requiring the more attention. The COVID-19 pandemic is momentum for us to accelerate innovative ways of cooperation and coordination mechanism. We thank that all UN agencies in Indonesia for swiftly adapting and collaborating with the Indonesian government in several joint programs to deal with the COVID-19 and catching up with development achievement. The implementation of the program during pandemic that are more integrated with each other is an innovation that deserve to be maintained. We hope that this progress will also be accompanied by better monitoring and disclosure of data to increase the accountability of cooperation to the public in the future. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, finally, I would like to congratulate the UNRC for their active role in supporting smooth collaboration between UN agency and the government of Indonesia in implementing the UNPDF 2016-2020. We also thank and appreciate all UN agency in Indonesia, our colleagues in BAPPENAS, the ministers, development partners, CSO, and other development actors for their contribution in the achievement of UNPDF in 2020. Our next cooperation with the UN is the United Nations Sustainable Development Cooperation Framework 2021-2025. I expect the UN SDCF will be the guidance and reference for the country strategic plan of each UN agency in Indonesia to ensure the synergy of development effort. With this, I believe that the future partnership between the Indonesia government and the UN will grow better and stronger. I thank you.
Bapak Leonard, thank you very much for your insightful words. The UN SDCF will become the framework between the government of Indonesia and UN agencies in the future, said Pak Leo. And in this case, 2021 to 2025, but this will not end in 2025. But instead, it is hoped to will always continue in the future. Pak Leonard also pointed out that this framework also plays as reference for many goals set, from poverty reduction to the field of justice. Pak Leo, once again, thank you very much. Distinguished guests, participants, ladies and gentlemen, now we're going to listen to the keynote speech by the Minister of National Development Planning, Chairperson of National Development Planning Agency or BAPPENAS, Bapak Suharso Monoarfa. Pak Menteri, the time is yours.
Excellencies, Mrs. Valerie Julian, UN Resident Coordinator Indonesia. I understand that you are now in Montreal, and now it's 11 o'clock, I think, Montreal time, so close to midnight. And UN agencies, representative and country directors, representative from line industry, private sectors, NGOs, academia, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. A very good morning. It is a pleasure to welcome you to this annual strategic forum to discuss the government cooperation with the UN in fulfilling the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and achieving the National Medium-Term Plan. I wish to extend my sincere appreciation to all the joint works from all UN agencies and government partners in advancing our development priorities, especially in times of the pandemic. Ladies and gentlemen, the pandemic has significantly disrupted the global economy, substantially slowed down economy. Most of productivity sectors and health and social sectors making the achievement of the SDGs and target of the National Medium-Term Development Plan more and more challenging. Indonesia is still struggling with the mutation of the virus, and at the same time, there is a lack of access to vaccines, while the outbreak rate of COVID-19 would not end soon. But today, I got the information that the new cases now is dropped to 2,779. This is the lowest since 16 May. And now this WIA is preparing. We are preparing for the transition to COVID-19 pandemic after decline in new cases. And we do hope during the transition from pandemic to endemic, let's say like that, the population will be returned to their business and social activities. And of course, this challenging progress drive us to shape our development priorities and strategies, not only for this year, but also for following year. We have to withstand for various possibilities and challenges. To address these issues for the following year, 2022 Government Annual Work Plan will focus on economic recovery and structural reform acceleration and marking 2022 as a key year to get rid of the pandemic pressure and strengthening a foundation for supporting economic transformation for medium and long term. The Indonesia economic recovery policy will address problems faced by business world and domestic industrial sectors that have had most impactful of the pandemic. Indonesia economic recovery plan is built upon structural reform consisting of climate investment, institutional, national health system, social protection system, education and skill sectors reforms, enhancement of research and innovation, human resource development, and expansion of infrastructure development. And we place access to vaccines for everyone, everywhere, as a precondition for resilient recovery. In regard to these reforms, I would like to acknowledge the implementation of the UN joint program through the UN COVID-19 multi-partner trust fund that support Indonesia to scale up inclusive social protection programs to respond to the pandemic, and also the UN joint program on adaptive social protection for all in Indonesia to ensure that the most vulnerable groups, including women and children, are protected against adverse socioeconomic impact of the crisis. These two UN joint programs have demonstrated how data analysis, technology, and innovation can provide recommendations for government strategies and policies to include vulnerable groups within social protection landscape. I also acknowledge the collaborative works of the UN and BAPPENAS in establishing SDGs financing hub. We have commitment to make this hub as an important platform to create innovative financing and financing strategies to coordinate and synergize all stakeholders concerning with Indonesia development and to mobilize resources to fill SDG financing gap. The government continues to look forward to working together with the UN family in Indonesia. Our partnership with UN agencies is crucial to resilience recovery. Ladies and gentlemen, aside then the challenge to achieve national economic recovery and resilience, immediate attention must be channeled to middle and long-term economic transformation. I will highlight our main national priorities in the medium-term development plan. Number one is strengthening economic resilience. Number two, developing regions to reduce inequality and ensure equity. Number three, the development of human resources. Number four, mental regulation and cultural development. Number five, strengthening infrastructure services. Number six, building the environment, disaster resilience, and climate change. And last one, strengthening the stability of politics, law and human rights, and transforming public service. SDGs have been embedded in successive medium-term national development plans. Putting and integrating SDGs in the era began and expresses Indonesia's commitment to mandate. And I believe that these main national priorities have been reflected in the United Nations Sustainable Development Cooperation Framework 2021 to 2025. This UN SDGs should be a guidance of UN Indonesia development cooperation for the medium term, 2021 to 2025. We have to be ready in facing the impact of pandemic, climate change, and other incoming challenges which have continued. In positive perspective, yes, these challenges have to be deemed as a good momentum as well to build back better. In this regard, for me, UN BAPPENAS Forum is a great opportunity for UN agencies, line ministry, private sector, CSOs, academia, and other stakeholders to discuss achievement, future challenges, and opportunities, and to find ways towards resilient recovery. I do believe that collaboration with UN agencies should contribute to value-added economic recovery and transformation. It is now my pleasure to declare the BAPPENAS-UN Forum 2021 officially open. I hope this forum to give inputs and feedback to support Indonesia development, especially in facing the ongoing pandemic challenges, such as vaccine access. We understand that in terms of this issue, there's what you call that one, vaccination gap among the developed countries and developing countries. And to close my remark, I'm delighted to virtually launch United Nations Sustainable Development Cooperation Framework 2021 to 2025 together with Ibu Valerie Julia. I hope when SDGs would enhance our cooperation for the next 5 years, especially in handling the pandemic impact and achieving our development. I do thank you.
Thank you, Pak Menteri Suharso, for sharing your keynote speech with us. Let's give a big applause for the launch of UN SDCF 2021-2025. Though we cannot present directly in this forum, but hopefully our virtual appreciation will also reinforce and also boost our confidence, our cooperation after the launch of the UN SDCF 2021-2025. We do also thank you, Valerie, for this launch, Ibu. So, ladies and gentlemen, once again, please mute yourself. Thank you. And Bapak Menteri, just for us to be aware of what he has pointed out. He also touched on the progress of the handling of the pandemic that will eventually be regarded as endemic, and Indonesia is ready for economic recovery and has a clear view on the country's economic recovery. And UN SDCF will play as the guidance in collaboration with UN agencies to help form the resilient economic recovery. And the launch, according to Bapak Menteri, is also hoped to reinforce collaboration and partnership between the two parties and with the people of Indonesia to make a lasting contribution to national development priorities and the sustainable development goals. This partnership is also hoped to eventually support all Indonesians to reach their potential and build healthier and more prosperous lives. And then it is with great pleasure to hear from Bapak Menteri and also later Ibu Valerie that the United Nations Sustainable Development Cooperation Framework 2021-2025 has been now officially launched. So ladies and gentlemen, let us enjoy a short video about it. May I ask the organizer to play the video, please?
The United Nations and the government of Indonesia continues to forging ahead together in leaving no one behind and to make a lasting contribution to national development priorities and the Sustainable Development Goals. With the latest UN Indonesia Sustainable Development Cooperation Framework, or UN SDCF 2021 to 2025 finalized and signed in April 2020, the framework reaffirmed UN Indonesia commitment to leaving no one behind, to support all Indonesians in reaching their potential and in building healthier and more prosperous lives. Through meticulous research and in-depth consultations with Indonesian government partners, civil society, the private sector, academia, youth and women's groups, the cooperation framework encompasses the entire spectrum of the UN's development programs and initiatives in Indonesia. It focuses on 4 strategic priorities of inclusive human development, inclusive economic transformation, green development, climate change and natural disasters, and innovation to accelerate progress towards the SDGs. The 4 priorities are closely linked with the National Medium-Term Development Plan, or RPJMN 2020 to 2024, and Indonesia's national priorities. The UN SDCF 2021 to 2025 promotes greater efficiency, visibility, and accountability in achieving these results. Indonesians, especially those at risk of being further left behind, are empowered to reach their human development potential, free of all forms of discriminations, including gender discrimination. Institutions and people contribute more effectively to advance a higher value-added and inclusive economic transformation. institutions, communities, and people actively apply and implement low-carbon development, sustainable natural resources management, and disaster resilience approaches that are all gender-sensitive. And lastly, stakeholders adopt innovative and integrated development solutions to accelerate advancements towards the SDGs. And now, we proudly present to you the official launching of the United Nations Sustainable Development Cooperation Framework 2021 to 2025. Head to indonesia.un.org to download your copy.
Thank you very much. And that video sums up what UN SDCF entails. And thank you so much for Bapak Menteri for your insightful keynote speech. Once again, Pak Suharso Manoarfa, thanks so much. Now, before we move forward to our next agenda, we will hold a virtual photo session. Okay, Zoom is not complete without any virtual photo session. So please, would like to invite Bapak Menteri Suharso and also Ibu Valerie, would like to invite you to take a picture with us in celebration of the launch of the UN SDCF 2021-2025. But it's not only for Pak Menteri and Ibu Valerie, but also for all of you. Please take your position and please make sure that your camera is open, your camera is on, and you don't need to unmute yourself, just the camera, and please don't be shy because we are supermodels in our own way. So please put on your best smile. For those of you who are drinking coffee, please stop doing so for the moment. For you who are eating or chewing, please stop, okay? And please give us your biggest smile. Let's count from 3, 2, 1. Cheers. Okay, let's do it again. Once again, this is my most favorite part of a very serious and important forum, Pak Menteri. So let's do it again, once again. 3, 2, 1. Cheers. Okay, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. And now, before we continue to the next session, would like to remind you once again, and would really appreciate you if you would register yourself in the attendance list in the link provided in chat room. Once again, this is very important for you to get your name registered at our attendance list. And please also provide us with your valid address because the organizing committee will send some souvenirs to your address right after this forum. And now we're going to listen to the speech by the United Nations Resident Coordinator, Ibu Valerie Julian. Ibu Valerie Julian, the time is yours, please.
Okay, thank you very much. Can you confirm if you can hear me well?
Yes, we can, Bu.
Okay, thank you very much. So greetings to everybody and particularly to Your Excellency, Bapak Menteri Suharso Manoarfa, Minister of BAPPENAS. It's a big pleasure to be with you today. Bapak Leo, Deputy Minister of Development Funding, also very happy to be with you. Bapak Subandi, Deputy Minister for Human Development, BAPPENAS. Ibu Amalia, Deputy Minister for Economy of BAPPENAS. Bapak Rudi, Deputy Minister for Maritime and Natural Resources. Ibu Vivi, Expert Staff for Social Affairs and Poverty Reduction. All my UN colleagues who are here, the distinguished speakers and panelists, and all the representatives from the ministries, local governments, development partners, private sector, and civil society organization. Salam alaikum, selamat pagi, salam sejahtera untuk kita semua, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, salam kebajikan. I hope that was okay. I'm very pleased to be with you all today for this virtual annual BAPPENAS-UN Forum on Development Cooperation. It's actually my second one. I remember last year when we did it in the context of COVID. We could nevertheless go to Bogor, but this year we do it absolutely virtually. And I think it's very good we do it because we give the example of the measures that have to be taken. So that's fantastic. And I'm happy also to know that the situation is improving in Indonesia. So as we do every year, we are gathered to reflect on the overall progress of all the work we do jointly between the United Nations and the government of Indonesia. And this year, we are looking at the work that we did within the UN Partnership Development Framework, which was the previous development framework covering the year 2016 to 2020. The objective today is also to discuss on how we can take the lessons and best practices to the new Sustainable Development Cooperation Framework that is covering now the period 2021 to 2025. And at the very get-go, I want to express my sincere appreciation to BAPPENAS for co-organizing this very important event with the UN team in Indonesia. So thank you very much. So to dwell on what the BAPAC minister said, it's clear that the past year has been a big test for all of us. And it has really upended a lot of our assumptions. And it has caused us, therefore, to question much of what we do and to revise our position on what we used to take for granted and what we need to reconsider, considering that also the COVID crisis has led us to have a better sense of what we value most and what we should dwell on. And that's why I wanted in this speech to really focus on two main values, which I think are really the two values that came out of this COVID crisis. One is flexibility and the other one is steadfastness. So those values are really deeply have deeply informed the approach that we have UN and government of Indonesia as we work together during the whole of last year. And there are values we need to draw upon if we really want to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals and if we want to ensure our shared mandate, which is to leave no one behind. Last year was the last final year of the UN Partnership for Development Framework, or UNPDF. That 5-year framework, the previous one, which drew upon the government of Indonesia's own plan, has mobilized national and global expertise to inform policy and make sure that development worked for everybody. Its objective was also to advance a human rights-based approach to development in Indonesia and to promote equity, good governance, gender equality, and the sustainable use of natural resources. And I have to say, by most measures, it has worked. But the fact is that we mustn't gloss over some of our shortcomings. And along some key metrics like poverty alleviation, food security, access to education, health insurance coverage, gender equality, Indonesia was heading in the right direction. Actually, Indonesia can point to some remarkable achievements over the UNPDF's 5 years lifespan. Just to tell a few, the national poverty level had decreased from 11.3% in 2015 to 9.22% in 2019. The same with inequality, measured by the Gini ratio, that had narrowed down over that same period. And the national unemployment rate had declined from 6% to 5%, round figure, in 2019. So today, we are at the beginning of the new framework, the United Nations Sustainable Development Cooperation Framework, UNSDCF, which is the successor of the UNPDF. And our new framework is supposed to capitalize on the achievement of the past 5 years. And I have to say, we have made great strides and we really wanted to harness our momentum and close the development gaps. So I hardly need to tell you what has forced us to take a step back. Like it did in all the parts of the world, the COVID-19 pandemic has halted Indonesia's progress. It has even reversed many of the hard-won gains. The pandemic has actually ravaged micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises, including many of Indonesia's dynamic startups. Meanwhile, we also know that 3 out of 4 households have experienced a loss of income, according to some recent UNDP and UNICEF surveys. Indonesia, that had become an upper middle income country, a high upper middle income country in 2020, has now returned to a low middle income status this year because of that. And we also know that actually the pandemic has disproportionately impacted the vulnerable groups, including women, reversing some progress on gender equality. And actually, what we have noticed as well is that the national restriction on movement, which were necessary because of COVID, also resulted in a tragic rise in gender-based violence. COVID-19 has also cut refugees, migrants, and all the other vulnerable groups from very important support networks. It has forced tens of millions of children out of school and potentially millions of children into child labor. So the pandemic's tendrils reached into education and health development and the world of works. And that's even before accounting for the tragic losses of life. Actually, the Voluntary National Report, the latest one that Indonesia presented during the High Political Forum on the Sustainable Development in July, has indicated the impact of the pandemic on the Sustainable Development Goals. For instance, those SDGs that were making some headways from 2015 to 2019 have now veered off course. This includes the SDG 1 on poverty, SDG 2 on food security, SDG 3 on good health and well-being for all, SDG 5 on gender equality, SDG 8 on employment and economic growth, and SDG 10 on inequality. So as I said, the pandemic forced us to take a step back. But it did not stop us in our tracks. Indeed, it underscored the need to adapt, to look at what wasn't working, to recover better, and to remain flexible. So ladies and gentlemen, allow me to touch on some of the ways flexibility has been at the heart of the UN efforts to mobilize support for Indonesia this pandemic year. In 2020, for instance, the UN, co-led by OCHA in its humanitarian effort, has mobilized the collective resources of the UN to provide an immediate and preemptive support to the Indonesian government as COVID-19 gathered pace globally. UNICEF Indonesia has been an integral part of the National COVID Task Force and has led the risk communication and community engagement cluster effort to fight misinformation. As a matter of fact, our intervention has reached more than 200 million people, and we have supported more than 45 million children in home-based learning. Much technical support has come from the World Health Organization, of course, which works with the government around the world to help them respond better to public health emergencies. And in Indonesia, WHO continues to support the Ministry of Health and other partners in responding to COVID. This support includes actually measures to reduce the human-to-human transmission of the virus, like enhancing the national surveillance and the case detection system. It also includes care for COVID-19 patients through a range of capacity building initiatives, researching treatment options, and the procurement of equipment. Along with some UN agencies like UNFPA, UNAIDS, and UNICEF, WHO also supports the continuity of essential health services COVID-19 had pushed aside. WHO and its partners have been assisting the Ministry of Health in the rollout of the COVID-19 vaccines, from planning and preparedness to the safe and equitable delivery of vaccines across the entire archipelago. And in this exercise, UNICEF has been instrumental as well. As of early September 2021, UNICEF has facilitated the arrival of 19.2 million COVID-19 vaccine doses through the COVAX mechanism. And in preparation for the arrival of the upcoming Pfizer vaccine, UNICEF has also supported the delivery of 17 ultra-cold chain units via COVAX, which is the necessary equipment for the vaccine, the Pfizer vaccine, and it has been installed and it's ready for storing the doses. The UN agencies are collaborating with the government at the national level and in all the 34 provinces for the forecasting of policy needs, the micro-planning, the financing, and the strengthening of vaccine cold chain. Actually ensuring the continuity of routine immunization to safeguard the health of children also is a priority. In fact, the entire UN country team has mobilized to support the government in battling COVID-19 in a way too broad and too far-reaching for me to really address it here. Another issue that has been of importance is the infodemic that unfortunately cost lives. We are all doing all what we can to fight it. Actually, In addition to the risk communication and community engagement activities, which I mentioned earlier on, the UN is also scaling up its signature misinformation fighting tool, Verified, that is its name, an initiative to deliver trusted information, life-saving advice, and stories from the best of humanity to fight against the miasma of misinformation that has increased during the pandemic. And what about the non-health impact of COVID-19? Well, to prevent the population who suffered income losses from falling deeper into poverty, the government of Indonesia has expanded at least 11 social protection programs. UNICEF, UNDP, WFP, and UN Women, through their social protection program, have supported these efforts all the way. Together, these agencies have helped ensure that vulnerable populations such as women, children, homeless people, and also people without formal registration were included in the social registry so that they could receive the cash assistance they needed. On their side, ILO, UNDP, UNHCR, and UNAIDS, also through their joint program, continue their effort to equip the young people, the women, refugees, people with disability, and people with HIV with entrepreneurship and skills training. IOM has been working to support migrant populations and working with refugees alongside UNHCR. IOM delivers direct assistance for returning Indonesian migrant workers at transit shelters. The organization also provides targeted economic assistance for the households of migrant workers and ensure that their needs are included in local government pandemic response. And through the Peace Hub, which is the platform I oversee with the support of UNOCT, UNODC, UN Women, and UNDP, we are pooling resources to ensure that Indonesia's ability to prevent violent extremism evolves with the changing nature of the threat. Well, this is only a small sample of what the UN in Indonesia's flexible, multifaceted response to COVID has been. And as I say, I cannot make justice here to all what has been done. It's only a few examples to highlight my speech. So ladies and gentlemen, you remember that I began my remarks by addressing the success of the UN PDF, but also the setbacks the pandemic has inflicted, and the way we have adapted our support to the government of Indonesia that demonstrates the importance of flexibility. But now I want to talk about the other value that I think is so important in the context of Indonesia, which is steadfastness, our commitment. And it is the combination of flexibility to adapt to the challenges of COVID and the steadfastness to our core principle that enables us to weather this storm. So what is that core principle? It is actually our pledge to leave no one behind. Leave no one behind is the central transformative promise of the 2030 agenda. It's a commitment to eradicate poverty in all its forms and to end discrimination and to reduce the inequalities that leave people behind. And because inequalities block the achievement of the SDGs, to leave no one behind is also the pledge to ensure we help those that could not catch up with the development that a number of people have experienced during greater progress. So leaving no one behind is really a core principle, and this core principle is actually present throughout our new cooperation framework. Together with the development of Indonesia, we have identified 4 strategic priorities. This will enable Indonesia to raise the bar and to strive for a dynamic economic transformation based on human rights and the development for all. In the video that was passed just before my speech, these 4 strategic priorities have been presented: inclusive human development, inclusive economic transformation, green development, climate change, and natural disasters, as well as innovation to accelerate progress towards the SDGs. So ladies and gentlemen, the UN SDCF, the cooperation framework, has been formulated before anyone heard of COVID-19. We have to remember that. But what is interesting is that when the COVID-19 crisis started, what we realized is that the 4 priorities that we had identified and I just mentioned actually were more relevant than ever. And they are relevant because they encompass the most urgent needs that are arising from the pandemic. Let's talk about inclusive human development, inclusive economic transformation, green development and climate change, and what about innovation? All those are actually as relevant before the pandemic that they are during the pandemic. For example, the UN was already working before the pandemic with the government of Indonesia to bridge the digital divide. And the pandemic has actually made the need to accelerate the access to digital tools even more urgent. ITU and UNESCO and other agencies are working on training programs to enhance the digital literacy and to stop the remote communities becoming isolated during the pandemic. Meanwhile, a better access to technology is giving a lifeline to struggling micro businesses, the majority of which, by the way, are run by women. On the food security front, the pandemic has pushed undernourishment levels back to where they were in 2017. And the Rome-based agencies, FAO, WFP, and IFAD, are engaged in effecting economic transformation in rural areas that will help increase crop yields and promote healthier food systems. And even though the economic slowdown from COVID resulted in emission reduction in 2020, we know that the economic recovery will likely see those very emissions rebound in 2022. And that is why our support for Indonesia's Building Back Better with low carbon development is so critical as we push for a green recovery. One way we're pushing together is through the UNOPS Energy Transition Partnership, which supports the government in transitioning to renewable energy. Another one is through UNESCO. Indeed, the UN Cultural Organization continues to raise awareness of the importance of protecting the biosphere and eco-hydrology, such as the newly designed UNESCO Biosphere Reserve of Bunaken, Tongkoko, Minahasa in North Sulawesi. UNESCO also engages civil society and youth groups with environmental restoration, as well as with technology and innovation for disaster reduction and artistic freedom, among other human rights the pandemic has challenged. With progress towards the SDG so disrupted, additional financing is required to help Indonesia get back on track from the Agenda 2030. And the UN SDCF, our cooperation framework, also facilitates that. Under the framework, actually, UNEP, UNDP, UNICEF, and UNIDO are jointly supporting the government in raising new capital through innovative financing instruments such as the thematic bonds, the SDG-linked loans, and the impact funds. I'll say it again, flexibility and steadfastness. This was so necessary, and this is so necessary today. So through the cooperation framework, the UN country team in Indonesia will provide progress towards the SDG. It's a framework that fosters greater national ownership actually have also set within the UN system to make sure we hold together accountable for its implementation. And these mechanisms are bolstered by thematic working groups that ensure no one is left behind. So in addition to the 4 results groups that corresponds to the 4 strategic framework, the 4 strategic pillars, the different thematic groups that we have put in place are: 1, the gender working group that provides technical advice on women empowerment; the human rights working group to follow up on implementation of human rights commitments; the HIV joint team that aimed at ending AIDS by 2030; a youth working group to harness the incredible force of Indonesian youth and their indispensable contribution to achieving the SDGs; a data monitoring evaluation learning group to generate evidence, to supply data, and to transfer knowledge to strengthen the government of Indonesia's public policy intervention in line with its midterm National Development Planning 2020-2024, as well as, of course, the 2030 agenda. Through those mechanisms, we really hope to achieve more coordinated planning, monitoring, and evaluation and implementation of our cooperation framework together with the government. So ladies and gentlemen, at this juncture, I would like to thank the government of Indonesia, its ministries and agencies, in particular, the Ministry of National Development Planning, BAPPENAS. It is thanks to your own flexibility and steadfastness that we are able to proudly point to what we have achieved together. I would also like to thank our generous donors, also the representative of civil society, the private sector, the academia, the youth and women, all of them, because all of you are critical to our ability to ensure that the pandemic response leaves no one behind. All that remains is now for me to reiterate our commitment on behalf of the entire UN system to ensuring the effective implementation of the UN SDCF 2021-2025. I really look forward to continuing our cooperation with all of you in the spirit of flexibility and steadfastness as we did last year. Thank you very much. Terima kasih.
Thank you very much, Ibu Valerie, for the insightful speech and also powerful speech, Ibu. So thank you very much. I would like to provide you with some of the highlights provided by Ibu Valerie just now. Indonesia is heading in the right direction. Many great things have been achieved, where poverty is reduced, Gini ratio narrowed down, and we are now in the new framework to capitalize on the achievement of the past 5 years. But the pandemic has brought Indonesia back to a low middle income country and has damaged all aspects in life. The pandemic forces us to take a step back, but it also provides us with resilience, flexibility, innovation, commitment, and steadfastness. And with a strong cooperation and collaboration between Indonesia and the UN, we can overcome these challenges together in order to leave no one behind. Thank you once again, Ibu Valerie, for your important, super important messages. And ladies and gentlemen, Excellencies, distinguished guests, for those who find it difficult for you to register yourself with the previous link, we now have provided with the new link. So please make sure to hit the button of chat room and find the new link, and please get yourself registered, as it is super, super important for you to get yourself registered. And now let's move forward to the next session on insights from BAPPENAS on governments of Indonesia and UN cooperation. There will be some speakers, so I'd like to remind you, dear speakers, that each of you is allocated 5 minutes to present your insights. Now, first, I would like to invite Ibu Amalia Adininggar Widyasanti, Deputy Minister for Economy. Ibu Amalia, you're welcome to share your insights on strategic priority number 1, inclusive human development. The time is yours, Ibu.
Thank you very much, Pa Rory. Actually, I would like to say that I'm not presenting strategic priority number 1, but I'm going to present strategic priority number 2 regarding to inclusive economic transformation in this regard. Please. And Honorable Ibu Valerie Julian and also Pak Leonard Tampu-Balon, Deputy Minister for Development Funding, and also my colleagues in the panelists, Pak Subandi, Pak Arifin Rudianto, and also Ibu Vivi Yolaswati, and all participants here. Good morning, everyone. At this important opportunity, I would like to present about Indonesia's recent development on inclusive economic transformation. Next. Indonesia is really concerned with inclusive economic growth for a better living of our people. And therefore, next, we very much aware that inclusive economic growth is very important for Indonesia, because inclusive growth is actually equity with growth, because we understand that there is a price of inequality resulting from economic growth. That's why it is very important for Indonesia to pursue inclusive economic growth, because we would like to have economic growth with poverty reduction, and we also would like to improve social mobility, and also we would like to ensure the equality resulted from our development process. Next one. With this understanding, we already mainstream the inclusive economic growth both in the long-term medium plan, we call it RPGPN, and also since previous RPGMN or medium-term development plan, we already mainstream that and stated very explicitly that stability of high growth has to be inclusive. And we also mentioned again in this or in current medium-term plan, RPGMN 2020 to 2024, that we really encourage inclusive and quality of growth. This is indicated by the sustainability of the carrying capacity of financial resources for equal and equitable welfare improvement. So therefore, even though we are, therefore in our macro policy framework, we are always emphasized to create inclusive economic growth. Next. And understanding that inclusive economic growth is very important, BAPPENAS has developed the Inclusive Economic Development Index of Indonesia in national and also provincial level. And this is actually a very powerful tool for us to be able to create a policy that is more inclusive for Indonesia. Next. This is actually how the distribution of Inclusive Economic Development Index by province. And we can see that some provinces still less inclusive than the others. Next one. And the other policy that Indonesia is now pursuing, that we really understand economic transformation is very critical for achieving 2045 vision. Before the COVID-19 pandemic, we already actually had a plan to do economic transformation, but due to the COVID-19 pandemic, we really understand that have to be revisited because we still have a vision to escape from middle income trap before 2045, because as you know that our vision of 2045 is actually to escape from middle income trap. Therefore, in next slide, I would like to really emphasize that Indonesia is now redesigning an inclusive and sustainable transformation for Indonesian economy. And we really underline SDGs is the main instrument for Indonesia transform its economy until 2045. And we have designed 6 strategies. We call it 6 big strategies. And these 6 strategies is actually the game changers towards Indonesia Maju, or we call it Indonesia have to be a high income economy before 2045. The last slide of mine will be, it is time for Indonesia to build a better future. And COVID-19 pandemic is a challenge, but also it is an opportunity for Indonesia. And then this is a time for Indonesia to redesign the economic transformation to carry out Indonesia to a better condition than before the crisis. It is actually an effort for Indonesia to create Indonesia more productive, more eco-friendly, and more inclusive, because we are trying to rebuild with a better balance between social, economic, and environmental aspects. I'll stop there and thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ibu Amalia, for the explanation about strategic priority number 2. Now let's move backward to strategic priority number 1, where Mr. Subandi is ready to present his presentation about strategic priority number 1. Mr. Subandi wants to be the Minister for Human Development, Community, and Culture. The time is yours, Pak.
Yeah. Thank you, Mas Rory. Good morning, Excellencies, Ms. Valerie Julian, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure for me to participate in this forum and allow me to provide our feedback, especially on outcome 1, inclusive human development. As stated in the 5-year development plan, the government of Indonesia has determined 7 policy directions to accelerate the achievement of the target of human development. The first is managing population growth and strengthening population governance, strengthening implementation of social protection, improving health services toward universal health coverage, improving the equitable quality education, also improving quality of children, women, and youth, and poverty reduction, and the last is enhancing productivity and competitiveness. We work closely with UNICEF and UNFPA, and some lessons learned that we got from the cooperation, and of course we have to continue this best practices that we have got from this cooperation. And for example, how we increase the the welfare of children, and and also Ibu Julian has mentioned also how we protect our children, and also how to increase their welfare. And also with the UNFPA, we work closely since 1972, I think. And we has lasted for 9 cycles to strengthen maternal health, sexual and reproductive health, and family planning services, managing HIV prevention, gender-based violence prevention and management, and utilization of data planning for improving the understanding linkages between population and development. And learning from the previous cooperation and learning from the pandemic situation and how we mitigate the pandemic, we need to improve the strategies and approach to anticipate the actual situation and challenges. And the COVID-19 crisis may therefore hamper and slow down the progress of achieving the SDGs in Indonesia, and increasing the vulnerability of children, youth, and women. And also the pandemic has caused disruption around the world, but it could also be an opportunity to make some needed social, economic, and environmental changes at national and global level. Considering the lessons learned from the previous cooperation and anticipating the actual need and challenges, we recommend 6 important things for the next cooperation from 2021 to 2025. The first is that the cooperation should be aligned with national priorities and actual policy of the government, such as the national health system reform, education reform, social protection system reform, etc. And the second is ensuring the active engagement of key stakeholders in the planning process, also in the implementation and joint monitoring and evaluation. The third is encouraging more integrated approach, processes, cross-sector and outputs, as well as between UN agencies to build effective action. Also to support and collaborate with government to address the impact of COVID-19 and develop strategies for getting ahead of the pandemic crisis. Strengthening the data and knowledge management, this is very important for the policymaking process at both national and subnational level, and also ensuring the sustainability of the program result through translation of the output into government policy or program, and replication of the development model and innovation. We really appreciate the great commitment of our development partners and seek your continuous support throughout the cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pak Subandi, for the strategic priority number 1. Now let's move to strategic priority number 3. Therefore, I would like to invite Pak Arifin Rudianto, Deputy Minister for Maritime and Natural Disasters. Pak Rudi, your insights are much appreciated.
Thank you, Mas Rory. Excellencies, honorable speakers, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Firstly, I would like to extend my sincere appreciation to all of you for the cooperation between UN and Indonesia, particularly in the environmental sector, which has been well executed over the years. We believe that protecting environment has been a main focus between Indonesia and UN related to achieve environmental sustainability. This goal becomes very important, and through the support from UN, it can help Indonesia to achieve a beautiful and sustainable environment that provide many positive impact in economic and social. We also increasingly aware that various potential disasters in Indonesia are making us thinking about the importance of preparing ourselves to be more resilient and vigilant in facing disaster. Next. In 2018, BAPPENAS initiated to join a partnership with UNPIDGE. Through this partnership, UNPIDGE will support the implementation of LCDI, particularly how to formulate the green economy policies and develop its implementation. This partnership brings together the 5 UN agencies, UNEP, UNDP, UNITAR, ILO, and UNIDO. Since 2018, BAPPENAS, together with UNPIDGE, has been working on several activities. Some activities have been done to support LCDI. First, assignment on green stimulus and green job for LCDI in energy sector. Second, baseline study and policy assessment for food loss and waste. Third, LCDI modeling for energy sector in national and province. And fourth, green economy learning assessment. And then GITA validation in fertilizer, pulp and paper, and cement industry. And 6, support LCDI implementation in pilot provinces. Next. UN also support Indonesia on how to develop circular economy strategy through the cooperation with UNDP. From this project, BAPPENAS expect that circular economy can be fully implemented in 2025 and will be determined in RPJMN 2025-2029. The key sectors to implement circular economy are first, food and beverage, electronics, textiles, plastic, and construction. We have arranged a timeline of this project implementation until 2023. This year, we are developing National Circular Economy Action Plan. Activity conducted in 2021 include study and assessment on several topics, capacity building and public awareness, establishment of circular economy secretariat under BAPPENAS, and stakeholders coordination. Next. In food sector, there are 3 partnerships between UN and Indonesia. UNFAO, who is focusing on food system and food safety, with UNIFAD, who is focusing on farming in rural and upland areas, and with UNWFP, who is focusing on food consumption analysis and projection. The cooperation includes but not limited to strengthening interinstitutional coordination mechanism to enhance food system, the development of integrated farming system in upland areas, and projection and analysis of food consumption for background study of RPJMN 2020-2024. Next. In fishery sector, the cooperation between UN and Indonesia has been implemented through FAO with Ministry of Marine Affairs and Fisheries. This project facilitates the implementation of coastal and fisheries management to achieve sustainable development in fishery sector. This activity is carried out in fisheries management area 712 for crab and snapper commodities, in FMA 713 for mud crab and snapper commodities, and in FMA 714 for small pelagic commodities. Next. Now about disaster risk management. Geographically, Indonesia is vulnerable to all potential disaster, particularly for hydrometeorological and geophysical hazards. Therefore, we need to improve our disaster management before, during, and after disaster. UN has facilitated Indonesia in some projects to restore the affected areas, particularly in West Nusa Tenggara and Central Sulawesi that affected by earthquake and tsunami disaster. For the next cooperation, BAPPENAS and UN has been communicating to encourage a project named Connecting Business Initiative. This project is a collaboration project between UNDP, OCHA, and other development partners to change the involvement of private sector on, before, during, and after the crisis. In Indonesia, this project aims to integrate the contribution of private sector into national disaster management. Then in the next few slides, I'm going to talk about the government policy and strategy in environmental sector and disaster reduction. Hopefully, this policy can be a valuable input for the cooperation framework of UN institution in Indonesia until 2025. First, about existing strategy. Climate change is a cross-cutting issue involving the three dimensions of sustainability: environmental, economic, and social. Sustainable development is achieved when the three dimensions coincide. The integration of sustainable development goals into the preparation of national development plan aimed at achieving the economic and social growth and reducing greenhouse gas emission. Environmental issues has now been incorporated as government priorities in current RPJMN. Within Indonesia's planning document, Indonesia has successfully incorporated three priorities, namely increasing environmental quality, enhancing disaster and climate resilience, and low carbon development included as one of the development priorities. Next, with the COVID-19 pandemic, we have to build back better toward green economy. We are all agree that environmental issues are not only our national issues, but also become a global issue, especially during this crisis due to the COVID-19 pandemic, which we have already felt the impact of it. So we need to develop some strategies to get out from this pandemic as soon as possible. COVID-19 pandemic has changed the national development policies to focus on economic recovery and social reform that already mentioned by Ibu Amalia. The government of Indonesia has made some strategies to overcome the COVID-19 pandemic impact through fiscal and non-fiscal stimulus package to prevent the economic from falling into recession. Green fiscal stimulus is at the intersection between national economic recovery and economic transformation, as it will encourage a more sustainable economy and growth in the future. This approach should be anticipated that potential of unprecedented shock will occur in the future, and we must build resilience through Build Back Better. As we have LCDI in our national priority, integrated Build Back Better into LCDI through B3 low carbon as a way to shift into green recovery plan. We should encourage an inclusive and comprehensive green fiscal stimulus to create low carbon and sustainable business model. UN has a commitment to support Indonesia on how shifting to green recovery due to COVID-19 impact with a support from UN PAGE. There are three thematic areas that will be supported by UN PAGE. First, impact assessment for green stimulus package. Second, strengthening collective national ownership of green recovery plan. And third, capacity building on green inclusive recovery. The government policy and strategy, as I mentioned earlier, is just a glimpse of our focus priority within the next 5 years. Detailed program and activities need to be elaborated, agreed, and implemented in further discussion. To conclude, I would appreciate for the continuous cooperation between UN and government of Indonesia. I'm confident that within the upcoming years, development cooperation between Indonesia and UN will create tangible and sustainable contribution for Indonesian people and for the global community. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Pak Arifin, for your insightful thoughts. That was strategic priority number 3, delivered by Bapak Arifin Rudianto, Deputy Minister for Maritime and Natural Disasters. Let's now move on to the last speaker from Bappenas, Ibu Vivi Yulaswati, Head of SDG Secretariat, on her insights on innovation for SDGs. Vivi, the time is yours, Ibu.
Thank you very much, Mas Rory, Excellencies, distinguished panelists, ladies and gentlemen. please allow me to share some ideas about and also the feedback on the outcome 4 about the innovations for the SDGs. As mentioned in the UN Sustainable Development Cooperation Framework, the outcome 4 intended to have the to make the stakeholders adopt innovative and integrated development solutions to accelerate advancement toward the SDGs. It includes some more detailed outcome, including to improve the capacity of the government and also the non-government stakeholders in Indonesia to design policies and incentives that promote innovations and scale up the innovation policies, technology, and practices. And then also improve the capacity, particularly in innovative financing instrument and partnership, as well as improve the capacity to produce, analyze, and utilize the high quality data, including the use of the digital data platform, as well as the big data to promote development that are more inclusive. Why the innovation for SDGs is important? We could see at the left-hand side, the Indonesian Global Innovation Index in the last 3 years remains stagnant. It's close or almost the same as the position of Indonesian Global Innovation Index in 2013. So as we already entering the decade of action, so less than 10 years, we have to achieve all the SDGs targets. It is really a momentum for us to explore all the innovations to accelerate the achievement of the SDGs targets. Around 124 out of 169 SDG target has mainstream in the RPJMN 2020-2024. Therefore, applying all the effort of innovations in all goals, it is hopefully to accelerate the achievement of the SDGs targets. In addition, the COVID has already increased the need for the SDGs financing. It is estimated by the OECD that SDGs global financing gap increased around 70% for 2.5 trillion to 4.2 trillion US dollar. Even before the COVID, Indonesian financing gap for the SDGs is quite high. It is around 14,000 trillion rupiah or around 1 trillion US dollar. So we have to explore more or beyond the conventional financing toward more innovative financing. In this regard, based on the framework as well as the ones that we have developed thus far, there are 4 pillars innovations for SDGs. The first is about the innovative policies and practice. We have developed the roadmap, national action plan, as well as the regional action plans at the subnational levels, and some guidelines, including the metadata, the monitoring and evaluations, and also reports. That's not only the annual report, but also the sustainability report, engaging the private. And also some innovation to localize the SDGs. Many private entities, villages, and communities already done it. Besides pillar innovative policy practice, there have been several ideas and also establishment in terms of innovative learning, capacity, and partnership. There are around 25 SDG centers located in 25 universities around the nations. And based on the collaboration, the Tanoto Foundations, UNDP, and BAPPENAS, we already developed the SDGs Academy as the hub of the knowledge and also innovations. And in some campuses, we have SDGs ambassadors as a champion. The third pillar is about the innovative financing that I mentioned. There have been some discussion already with the UN entities on SDGs financing hub. And then creating more integrated financing framework, and in addition to involve the private entities, we have developed also the SDGs investing map. Lastly is on the innovative data. Of course, there are a great need to upgrade our SDGs dashboard and also the big data based on the big data. In relation to the policy strategies, I think we need to to develop more interlinkages between the economic, social, and environmental dimension in order to be a basis to enhance more impact and forward better. So this is only the example how the policies or strategies in clean energy would relate in the development on sustainable food system, eradicating the digital divide, create a resilient, inclusive development as well as sustainable cities. There are two strategies that we would like to offer. First, for the collaboration of all stakeholders to make a stronger role of non-state actor, and then enhance the analytical works, mostly through the studies and evaluation, make result-based policies and strategies, as well as enhancing the capacity of the SDG centers and the academy as a hub of collaboration and innovation. Under localizing SDGs, doing pilots, incubate, and adaptations is really the way forward to make an implementation of the SDGs at the local level. This is, of course, to also build the ownership from the local governments and other stakeholders at the local level. Improve data and monitor and the SDGs progress at the local level, it's a must, and also internalizing the SDG principle in all business processes into the businesses, and linking the macro, meso, micro level, not only from the data perspective, but also the analysis and also the implementations. On the innovative financing resources, we want to orchestrate all the potential innovative financing. At the left-hand side, we could see all the potential that we have, not only from the global financing, but also from the domestic philanthropy, as well as the impact investment. So by developing the SDGs financing, we could integrate, facilitate, and synergize of all potential innovative financing to accelerate the SDGs achievement. Lastly, about the management information system. This is when we're talking about accelerations, it is inevitably to have a robust management information system. We are aware that and experience that during the pandemic, there are an increasing needs for digital transformations. So many countries that have maintained a low COVID mortality include the ones that have robust systems in early surveillance, testing, contacts, and tracing, which most of them involve about the IT, digitalization, and management information system. So we would love to upgrade our SDGs dashboard to provide more updated, not only data, information, and publications, but also the analysis, present visualization of SDGs indicators, not only the progress, but also some projection to see the gap, as well as develop synergized effort toward closing the gap to 2030 agenda. This SDGs dashboard, it is a must to be integrated with the eMonef system. It is an online system for government and also non-state actor, not only linking the analytical data from action plan and action plan at the regional level, but also linking to the e-planning, e-budgeting, and the eMonef. Of course, the use of big data for policymaking is inevitable. That's all that I could say. I give it back to Rory. Thank you very much for your attention.
Ibu Vivi Yulaswati, Head of SDG Secretariat, thank you so much, Ibu Vivi, who touched on the importance of innovation for SDGs. So, ladies and gentlemen, those were the speakers from the BAPPENAS side who have shared their insights. And now I would like to listen to the responses provided by the UN Strategic Priority Chairs. It's similar as before. Each speaker here is allocated with 5 minutes to present their insights. But before all that, would like to remind you that once again, please do register yourself at the new link provided in the chat room. And also for those of you who are wondering, will I get that materials both from BAPPENAS and UN? Yes, you will get all the materials, because all the materials will be put into the link that has been shared to you. So all materials are all accessible for you to read or for you to check later on. So for the first speaker from the UN, this is for Inclusive Human Rights Development, the result group number 1, co-chairs from UN, Ms. Deborah Komini from UNICEF and Ms. Kritayawan Bunto from UNAIDS. I would like to kindly invite the result of group 1 co-chair forward. The screen is yours.
Thank you very much, and selamat pagi, Pak Suharso Monarfa, Pak Leonard, Pak Subandi, Ibu Amalia, Pak Arifin, Ibu Vivi, and all distinguished government officials and UN colleagues. I would like to start by thanking BAPPENAS profusely for always providing your much valued leadership, ensuring coordination between UN agencies on one hand and key line ministries and implementing partners on the other. Thank you also for all your past guidance in developing a program of cooperation across all UN agencies for this new cycle of cooperation, a program that is aligned with, based on the national priorities defined in the RPJMN of the Republic of Indonesia. This is a point that we will continue to stress, because all we do is in support to, in alignment with the national plans of Indonesia. Thank you also, especially Pak Subandi now, for the helpful observations on the results achieved to date and the recommendations on priority areas for the future, and also for the way we work together. Thank you now for giving me the opportunity to speak on behalf of the different agencies that contribute to the result group 1. This is the result group on inclusive human development. UNICEF, myself, and UNAIDS are currently the co-leads for the result group, but we represent a much larger family of UN agencies. It's a total of 15 agencies that comprise this group, and we all contribute to the results associated with the result group 1. They include FAO, IFAD, ILO, IOM, ITU, UNAIDS, UNDP, UNESCO, UNFPA, UNHCR, UNICEF, UNODC, UN Women, WFP, and WHO. In total, there are 120 key activities that are associated with this result group, and this reflects the largest work plan among the 4 result groups that make up the UNSDCF. What's important to always highlight is that implementation of these 120 activities is spread across Indonesia, from Aceh in the west to Papua in the east. While the UN maintains a footprint in 26 provinces with actual presence, physical presence, activities are concentrated in 8 of these provinces: East Java, Central Java, South Sulawesi, East Nusa Tenggara, Aceh, West Nusa Tenggara, Papua West Papua. These are the areas that collectively, in consultation with government, we have agreed have the greatest needs because of limited or inadequate services, or where there are the largest numbers of people in need of support. Results Group 1 already contributed to several important SDGs. This was also highlighted in the resident coordinators' opening remarks, including SDG 3, SDG 10, SDG 5, SDG 4, SDG 16, SDG 2, SDG 1, and SDG 8. We, the members of the Result Group 1, are grateful for the close collaboration and very strong partnership with government partners in achieving our shared results. In fact, we are actually working with about 50 government partners across the country at both national and subnational levels. Many ministries partner with diverse UN agencies with diverse mandates. I will mention some of the ministries that work with several UN agencies simultaneously. This includes the Ministry of Social Affairs, the Ministry of Education and Culture, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Manpower and Transmigration, BAPPENAS, of course, the Ministry of Home Affairs, and the Ministry of Women's Empowerment and Child Protection. There are other line ministries that play a role, with a smaller number of agencies in this result group, but are responsible for more broad results in other result areas. For example, the Ministry of Agriculture, the Ministry of Marine Affairs and Fisheries, and the Ministry of Environment and Forestry. And then, since Indonesia is a centralized country, we are also working closely together with provincial governments in the different provinces where we have direct presence. I would like to now just make a short note on the resources that have enabled us to achieve our results together so far. A number of donors have been very generous with UN entities this year. And by mid-year, we were already able to mobilize a good portion of the funds we had projected, defined for 2021. And this allowed us for timely planning processes. This despite all the challenges of COVID-19, and we are very grateful we were able to mobilize these resources. This is a combination of the generosity of donors, but also the very high standards and the very good plans presented by the government of Indonesia that we are able to support. So that from now on, most of our resource mobilization efforts will focus on next year and beyond. Now, looking ahead, each of the UN agencies will continue to implement our work plan through this year, as agreed with BAPPENAS and with line ministries. Thank you again for your feedback, because this is going to be reflected. We will also soon begin the process of consulting on key activities for the 22 work plan to achieve the agreed upon results. Several joint programs involving more than one agency from result group 1 are already being implemented and are well advanced, and will continue through the remainder of this year into 2022. There will be continuity between this year and next year, and this includes social protection, food security and nutrition, health system strengthening, governance and the rule of law, community engagement to promote peaceful communities and gender equality, migrants, asylum seekers and refugees, and ending violence and harmful practices. And then we will, of course, continue our COVID-19 response activities. This includes containing the spread of the pandemic and decreasing morbidity and mortality through support for vaccine rollout, support to the health sector, implementation of risk communication and community engagement activities. We will also continue to support a reduction in the deterioration of human assets and rights through support to the provision of critical multi-sectoral services, including in the areas of health, nutrition, education, wash, and also food security. Fundamentally, we will continue to provide support in protecting, assisting, and advocating for particularly vulnerable groups such as refugees, pregnant women, children, people with disability, people with HIV, the elderly, internally displaced people, and migrants and their host communities. And also, very importantly, following through on the opportunities for innovation that emerged during the COVID-19 crisis, we will continue to provide support to decentralized services to communities and to online digitalized services for consultations and for transportation of commodity. On digitalization, one of the major lessons learned in this pandemic is that telemedicine can be a game changer for some of the challenges faced by the most vulnerable, isolated communities, and we will continue to provide the required support. Once again, thank you for the quality of your collaboration to date. We look forward to continuing our work together over the months and year ahead as we continue to provide support and align with Indonesia's plans for building forward better and for Indonesia to step up to its full potential, also in inclusive human development. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ibu Komini and Ibu Bonto, representing group 1 or result group 1. So thank you very much for your insights. Next, from the strategic priority number 2 on inclusive economic transformation, co-chaired by Ms. Michiko Miyamoto from ILO and Ms. Ivan Kusio from IFED. I'd like to invite the co-chairs, please, to provide some insights of yours.
Thank you very much. So on behalf of the result group 2, inclusive economic transformation, I'd like to echo my previous speaker and express sincere appreciation of the presence and guidance from BAPPENAS, Bapak Menteri, Bapak Soeharto Monosopra, Bapak Reo, Ibu Amelia, Ibu Fifi, Bapak Subandi, Bapak Rudi, and all the directors also present today from BAPPENAS. And I also would like to appreciate the participation from all the line ministries, UN partners, working very closely with us on inclusive economic transformation. So today I have a pleasure of speaking on behalf of 16 UN agencies under this result group, which is UNIDO, UNICEF, UNDP, UNESCO, OCHA, IFAD, UNOPS, FAO, UNAIDS, IOM, UN Women, ITU, WHO, ILO, UNHCR, and UNEP. So each agency comes with unique and distinctive expertise, analysis, global and local networks. So myself from ILO and representative of IFAD are co-chairing this group, which meets regularly, and we brainstorm among us using UN Info as useful repository of our activities, so that as one UN, we contribute in a most effective way. So I'd like to start by thanking the insight and valuable information delivered by Ibu Amelia on inclusive economic transformation. It really helps us to further enrich and also revisit our work where we increase our value of UN support to Indonesia, more accountable, more transparent, and more effective. So formulation of this work of the result group 2 under the UN SDCF was guided by the national priorities defined by the National Development Plan 2020 to 2024 for Indonesia. And it was also fully aligned with BAPPENAS's priority with key stakeholders' inputs on how we can support Indonesia in moving up and transforming to high-income country, as explained by Ibu Amelia. So as UN, our current contribution is how to support this agenda by making it most inclusive, again, highlighted by Ibu Amelia, so that all Indonesians can move up economic ladder together without leaving anyone behind, and assist the country by achieving SDG targets in the process. The work plan of the group is highlighted the main activities and budgeted for $145 million and roughly $81.7 million in loans and grants are currently in implementation, working closely with all relevant government stakeholders at national and provincial level in urban and rural setting, formal and informal economy. Taking this opportunity, we would like to thank all partners for their valuable partnership with UN for advancing inclusive economy. The results group 2 is implementing 58 key sub-outputs with focus on skills and education for employment, SMEs, rural support for agriculture, plantation, fisheries, circular economy, preparation for Industrial Revolution 4.0, IT, STEM, digital jobs, and economic empowerment for targeted disadvantaged groups. I am also happy to report that the number of joint UN projects and initiatives is growing, especially in the areas of income support for hard-hit sectors and vulnerable groups due to COVID-19, as explained by our United Nations resident coordinator earlier. Now, moving forward, agencies under this result group will continue to support employment and income recovery for massive job loss caused by COVID-19 in the following areas. 1, safe reopening of the economy. 2, support to hard-hit economic sectors and vulnerable groups for job recovery. 3, focus skills need for growing economic areas in post-COVID era. And number 4, resilience building for any future crisis. In reopening economy, UN will assist enterprises for setting up COVID-safe workplaces so workers' rights and protections are assured. Therefore, business is sustainable. UN will especially support SMEs recovery as engine of growth and major source of employment with policy and programs development to support their productivity. In rural economy, UN will continue to build resilience of small-scale farmers and producers by diversity again, the basket of their products and avoid monoproduction. UN will also invest in new skills for post-harvesting and processing of their product so that they can be less fragile to any market changes. UN will continue to reach out to other groups for entrepreneurship and business skill training, especially to hard-hit vulnerable groups to be both economic contributor and beneficiary, again, with dignity. Women, youth, migrant workers, refugees, people living with HIV, people with disability, rural economy. In post-COVID era, following guidance from Ibu Amelia, UN would like to expand further training opportunities for digital transformation, as well as circular economy as growing area and potential opportunities. In concluding, inclusiveness of economy cannot be more critical in COVID recovery as we horrified in and witnessed a large-scale loss of employment and income wiped out major socioeconomic gains and poverty reduction. UN will focus how to avoid K-shaped recovery from crisis, as economist describes, which means just like letter K-shape, only part of well-educated, resourced population climb back upwards, ladder from the crisis, while the rest goes downwards, expanding the gaps. Instead, we wish to contribute for a V-shaped recovery where all Indonesians bounce back together. Not only this is the right things to do for protecting basic rights of fellow Indonesians, but economically, it makes perfect sense how to lift up the country. I will finish here. We look forward to your continuous and valuable guidance and engagement.
Thank you so much, Ms. Miyamoto, and also Mr. Cosio, representing SG RG number 2. So thank you very much for your insightful thoughts. Now let's move on to the next session. This is the result group number 3 that is dealing with climate change and also disaster risk reduction. The result group co-chairs from UN are Mr. Mohamed Jalid from UNESCO and also Ms. Jolanda John-Hart. In this regard, I would like to invite Ms. Jolanda John-Hart to please present your insights on behalf of RG3. I do apologize if I mispronounce your name, but I hope I did it correctly. Your time is yours.
Thank you very much. I needed to unmute myself first. You had to allow me to unmute myself. Thank you very much. Distinguished guests, participants, Pak Menteri, His Excellency Suharto Monoarfa, Minister of Development Planning, Pak Arifin, Deputy Minister for Maritime Natural Resources, Pak Leonard, Deputy Minister for Development Funding, Pak Subandi, Deputy Minister for Human Development, Community and Culture, Ibu Amalia, Deputy Minister for Economy, Ibu Vivi, Head of the SDG Secretariat, distinguished directors, resident coordinator, heads of agencies, ladies and gentlemen and colleagues. Thank you very much for this opportunity to speak today on behalf of our Results Group 3. And I would like to thank BAPPENAS for providing also ongoing strong leadership and ensuring effective coordination with the UN agencies involved in this results group. Also would like to thank BAPPENAS for the guidance in developing our program of cooperation across the UN agencies for 2021-2025, based on the priorities in the current midterm development plan, namely environmental quality, increasing disaster and climate resilience, and low carbon development. And last but not least, of course, also thanking BAPPENAS for your observations today and your guidance on the priority areas for the way forward. So first of all, I would like to present a few key facts and figures on the results group 3 on behalf of the group's contributing agencies. At the moment, currently, both UNESCO and UNOPS are co-chairing the results group 3 on green economy, climate change, and disaster resilience. We are, of course, as was mentioned before, addressing issues of crucial significance to Indonesia. And Results Group 3 is engaged in the delivery of about 100 key activities with contributions of 16 different UN agencies. I'd like to briefly name them: FAO, IFAD, IOM, UNDP, UNDRR, UNEP, UNESCO, UNFPA, UNICEF, UNIDO, UNODC, UNOPS, UN Women, UN Habitat, WFP, and WHO. We are, as a group, active in 31 of Indonesia's 34 provinces. And about half of those 100 key activities relate to the group's work at the national level, but a significant Results Group 3 footprint can also be seen, in particular in the provinces of East and Central Java, in Riau, in Papua, in South Sulawesi, and in East and West Nusa Tenggara, where we also work with provincial, district, city, and village level partners. Now these our results groups agencies working, of course, on climate change and disaster risk reduction focus in particular on issues such as renewable energy and energy efficiency, disaster risk reduction policies and strategies, education and information services, early warning systems, preparedness and resilience of vulnerable communities, terrestrial and aquatic ecosystems, and on data. So across the Sustainable Development Goals, the group has made also significant contributions, obviously, to the SDG number 13, climate action, but also on 15, life on land, 7, affordable and clean energy, 11, sustainable cities and communities, 12, sustainable consumption and production, 14, life below water, and also on 3, good health and well-being, and 2, zero hunger. Now, our group's total annual resources for this year needed for all the programs was about $65 million US. Of that, about $58 million US was secured. This has left us with a small funding gap of about $6 million US, about 9%. And we still hope to close that gap this year. The largest portfolio in terms of value is actually for the support for the resilience of vulnerable communities and on ecosystems. The Global Environment Facility, GEF, makes also a significant contribution to the work of the Results Group 3, alongside, of course, also other bilateral donors, such as, for example, KfW from Germany, KOICA from the Republic of Korea, and also the governments of USA, Japan, Australia, and the European Union, and also other bilateral donors making contributions alongside core funding from agencies themselves. Large-scale projects supported by the GEF, such as advancing Indonesia's lighting market to high efficient technologies, and also strengthening sustainability in commodity and food systems, land restoration, and land use governance rely on the contributions of more than one agency. And other examples of projects have already been mentioned earlier by the resident coordinator and also by Pak Rudi. Just like to reiterate that we are very grateful for the close collaboration and strong partnership with a wide range of Government of Indonesia partners in elaborating our programs and working towards their achievement. So now looking ahead, the Results Group 3 strives towards increasing the delivery through our joint programs, almost now 1 year into the UN SDCF. An increasing number of the group's activities are the result of joint work by 2 or more agencies. And this is a trend that will be further emphasized as the implementation of the UN SDCF proceeds. So, and as with the other result groups, as we've seen, the Result Group 3 agencies also will continue to implement their work plans as agreed with BAPPENAS and other line ministries throughout this year, while at the same time we also will begin consulting on the key activities and priorities to be included in the 2022 joint work plan to achieve the agreed upon results. Now, of course, also the global impacts that we have been discussing of the COVID-19 pandemic has definitely demonstrated that the relationship between people and planet must be a central consideration towards sustainability. And also the Results Group 3 will continue its work in addressing also the impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic. And I'd like to mention that significant efforts have already been made by contributing agencies in the areas of health, economic response, and multilateral cooperation. And as Pak Menteri earlier mentioned, the pandemic, of course, has an impact on the development priorities and strategies for the coming years. And the foundations need to be strengthened. Ibu Amalia, for example, highlighted the focus on low carbon development, blue economy, and energy transition. And Pak Arifin stressed the importance of our future cooperation on green recovery, including green industry, the circular economy, sustainable land restoration, and green fiscal stimulus strategies. So we will be looking forward to a continued close collaboration with BAPPENAS and Government of Indonesia partners in a future with, in which the Results Group 3's work of area of work is bound to take on an ever more significance for the long-term sustainability. And we look forward to support Indonesia's government efforts to build back better. Thank you very much. Terima kasih.
Thank you, Ibu John Hart dan Pak Jalid, for your report and for your presentation. Now let's move on because our time is getting very, very tight. Let's move on to the UNRG4. Co-chairs from the UN are Mr. Norimasa Shimomura from UNDP, represented here by Ms. Sophie Kemkadze and Mr. Ismail Shah. Now I would like to invite the co-chair, please, to speak on behalf of RG4.
Thank you very much. And a very good morning, good afternoon from our side as well. Excellencies, UNRC to Indonesia, distinguished representatives from BAPPENAS and government agencies, heads of UN agencies, representatives of civil society, private sector, academia, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues. On behalf of the Results Group 4 for innovation to accelerate progress towards the SDGs, I want to join my colleagues in thanking BAPPENAS for encouraging innovative thinking and programming from the side of the UN, and your valuable guidance in aligning UN's priorities with those of the government's medium and longer-term development plans. And of course, very special thanks to Ibu Vivi for her reflections on the results achieved to date under this focus area and recommendations on how to best align the UN's collective contribution for maximizing the impact to the government's innovation agenda. UNDP and ITU have the honor to be co-leads of the Results Group 4 on innovation for sustainable development. The group, as the name suggests, shows collective aspiration of the UN and government of Indonesia for innovation and sustainable development goals. We work on 3 focus areas under the results group: promotion of innovation and innovative policies, technologies and practices, innovative financing and partnerships, and high-quality data for decision-making. 20 UN agencies are contributing to the results associated with this results group. They include FAO, IFAD, IOM, ITU, UN Habitat, UNAIDS, UNDP, UNDRR, UNEP, UNESCO, UNFPA, UNICEF, UNIDO, UN OCHA, UN ODC, UNOPS, UN Women, WFP, and WHO. Total 48 key activities are associated with this results group, which are spread across the 16 provinces in Indonesia. This cut across literally most of the SDGs. However, the contributions to SDGs number 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, and 17 are worth mentioning here. Result Group 4 is grateful for the close collaboration and strong partnership with government partners in achieving our shared objectives. Under this area, we work with more than 30 government partners across the country, both at national and subnational levels. We are also supporting COVID response and recovery. Some ministries are also working with several UN agencies. This include BAPPENAS, Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Communications, Coordinating Ministry of Maritime Affairs and Investment, Ministry of Home Affairs, LIPI, and others. We also have partnership with bilateral development partners, IFIs, vertical funds, joint SDG funds, and multi-donor trust funds, and the private sector. RG4 is the least resource-intensive group among all results groups. To achieve our results for this year, we have defined our annual budget as at the level of $14.8 million, of which $9 million has already been mobilized by mid-year despite COVID-19 related challenges. However, since this is a relatively non-conventional focus area, we see the need to activate our outreach and advocacy among funding partners, and we also rely on BAPPENAS to support us on this. We have a strong focus on gender equality and inclusion in this results group, as we do across the entire UNSDCF. Around 50% of our resources significantly contribute to the gender equality objective, and 40% has at least some contribution towards the objective. As it stands now, we implement 5 joint initiatives involving more than 1 UN agency. These are related to data collection and reporting, improving policy environment for public and private financing, especially for green investments, supporting online integrated information systems, and enhancing gender-sensitive early warning and disaster management systems. We took note of the priorities outlined today during the keynote speech of the distinguished Minister Monoarfa and Ibu Vivi. And now allow me to invite back Ismail Shah, Head of ITU, to briefly reflect on this.
Thank you very much, Ibu Sufi, and I'll echo the sentiments of Ibu Sufi and thank the colleagues from BAPPENAS, Excellency Minister, Deputy Ministers, distinguished speakers, and colleagues. So as mentioned by Ibu Sufi, the brief description are as follows. We fully share the vision that innovative financing mechanism can play a key role in catalyzing investment from public and private capital for a green and sustainable recovery and to close the SDG financing gap. In this regard, the Honorable Minister mentioned the SDG financing hub, and UN Indonesia has its plans to support the government to develop, establish, gain access, and leverage innovative financing instrument and partnership for SDGs. Similarly, as mentioned by Ibu Fifi, importance of data was as mentioned in her speech, both in the traditional and innovative data sources, It is very critical that we have both these data sets with which rigorous models and are needed to analyze the various policy and implementation scenarios. We can build on existing capacities and initiatives within the UN system for harnessing traditional and non-traditional data collection and analysis, including big data analysis at the UN level and dashboard to further support BAPPENAS in this effort. The third point raised by Ibu Fifi was related to technology. Of course, we are harnessing technological progress to minimize the technological divide or the digital divide. The COVID-19, despite its tremendous adverse impact, has also been opening up unprecedented opportunities, particularly for digital transformation. These include, but are not limited to, school connectivity, e-agriculture, e-finance, e-trade, and commerce, and many others. The RG4 will maintain and sustain these momentums and place them as pillars and driver of recovery from the impact of COVID-19. Finally, Ibu Fifi also mentioned the need for capacity development, and together with our other result groups and UN agencies, we will address that part also. Let me conclude here, and once again, thank you for your collaboration to date. We look forward to continuing our work together in the area of innovation for accelerating the SDGs over the months and years ahead. Thank you very much. Terima kasih.
Thank you very much, Pak Ismail Shah and Ibu Sophie Kemkadzi, representing RG4. So thank you very much for your insights. Ladies and gentlemen, we have now come to our discussion session. This session will be co-chaired by Deputy Minister for Development Funding Affairs, BAPPENAS, Bapak Leonard Tampu Bolon, and also UN Resident Coordinator, Ibu Valerie Julian. Due to, however, the time limit, because it's nearing lunchtime, we welcome 3 questions, comments, or feedbacks from this session. Please go straight to the chat room, as you can also ask questions on there, or you can also use the raise hand option on your Zoom screen. You can then unmute yourself when the host calls you, when I call you, and please ensure that you present yourself and your institution first. Now I'd like to hand over this session to Pak Leo and also Ibu Valerie. The time is yours.
Thank you, Pak Rory. Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, Ibu Valerie, sorry. This afternoon, I, together with Ibu Valerie, will co-chair the question and answer session. I welcome all of you to convey question related to the review of 2020 achievement of UN PDF 2016-2020 and its lesson learned. The forward-looking approach to the UNSDCF 2021-2025, how we can strengthen UN government cooperation and coordination mechanism, and most importantly, to discuss the anticipated strategies on the COVID-19 impact to the achievement of the SDG. But like Pak Rory said, we're supposed to end this meeting at 12. So I think we have to limit this until only for the 3 questions, yeah, Pak Rory, yeah? I think this, because it's 12, more than 12 already. And then buat Bapak Ibu sekalian, kami persilakan Bapak Ibu untuk dapat menyampaikan pertanyaan dan masukan dalam bahasa Indonesia maupun bahasa Inggris, karena ya kita akan membuka kesempatan ini, dan jika disampaikan bahasa Indonesia nanti kami siapkan interpreter yang akan bantu. So saya pikir silakan kalau ada pertanyaan atau komen, tapi sayang kita cuma batasin, we only limited for 3 person. Silakan Bapak Ibu. Ya Bu Valerie ya.
Ms. Valerie, if you'd like to jump on, we've only got 3 questioners or 3 commenters in the session due to the limited time.
No, but I just suggest that we take the question and then I'll come back on that. So let's just use the time as wisely as we can. So no problem, let's take the questions. Thank you so much.
Silakan Bapak Ibu. Ya, silakan. Please, Dr. Parani.
Terima kasih, Bapak. Selamat siang. Good afternoon to everyone. Just a quick thing that what we have observed in working with the government and in Indonesia throughout the pandemic, particularly last year, and even in general development program, one of the biggest challenge for all of us, whether it's government or UN or any partner, is it's one thing we have the policies, plans, and others very well done, but actually get it towards the last mile and getting it implemented in the provinces and district. There's always a disconnect because of a large country and decentralized system. Now, if you are talking about catching up with all these missed opportunity and the development and to move forward, what are we going to do different this time to make it work better in a decentralized system and make that connection between the central and others better? I think that's a critical question and a comment towards that I've discussed with Pabandi and team as well. For technical sectors like health, it doesn't help rotating people every 2 to 3 years. We want somebody who is a top expert who have 20 years experience in tuberculosis working in TB, rather than them get circulated every three years. And we have seen that in the pandemic response, a huge challenge, not having people who have worked in surveillance or laboratory or others throughout their career, but only been rotating in key positions. I think I don't have a magic bullet or an answer to that, but I think it's important that we all need to probably think through this. Over to you, Pak.
Terima kasih. Thank you, Pak. Sekarang namanya lagi nih. I cannot see your name anymore. Thank you for this question. I think Pak Rory, I think some people here need to translate to Indonesia. Ada translasinya nggak? Supaya orang lain bisa dengar pertanyaannya.
Actually, Pak Leo, we've got the interpretation feature on the global logo below of the Zoom screen. So there will be 2 languages provided, both in Indonesia and English.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we jump to the second question then. Is there any question?
So that was the first question from Dr. Parani. We are still expecting for the second questioner or commenter. Jadi Bapak-Bapak, Ibu-Ibu, silahkan apabila Anda ingin bertanya di sesi ini, karena tadi banyak sekali insight yang diberikan baik dari Bappenas ataupun UN. There were many insights given by both the UN and also Bappenas. This is your chance to re-clarify, or if you want to dig deeper about the insights that you got from the sessions earlier, please do. We only have 2 available spots for you if you'd like to be a commenter or a questioner. Thank you.
No more?
Okay.
I think we can go on with Dr. Parani's question first, Ibu Valerie or Pak Leo.
Yeah, Ibu Valerie, please.
Oh, I think it's mostly a question that we need to reflect upon, all of us. I would like to hear from the government, but I think Dr. Parani is absolutely right. What we should do is really learn the lessons of what happened in 2020 and apply it. I think the question on decentralization and the way it is put together is very critical. And indeed, the issue of the turnover of personnel could be an impediment, although we understand the rationale of it, but it could be an impediment. So that would be very interesting for us to hear what the government thinks of that and what are the measures that could be put in place. So over to you, Pak Leo.
Yeah. I think I agree with you, Bu Valerie and Bu Parani. This one is important for us to solve this problem. Yeah, I think I agree with you. So we have to discuss about it and think about it, how to solve all of this decentralization problem. So everybody can have the benefit from the program that I will do for the period 2021 to 2024. Mungkin dari teman-teman ada yang bisa tambahkan, Pak Rudi, Pak Winnie. Terutama dari Pak Bandi, ada pertanyaan untuk Pak Bandi, Pak. Pak Bandi is not there anymore.
Or Ibu Winnie would like to jump on this. If you'd like to do that, please welcome. Oke. Nampaknya tidak ada.
Ya, terima kasih. Tadi di mute oleh panitia. Thank you for unmuting the.
Okay.
Yeah, Pak Parani, thank you very much. And your question is not only for one sector. This is the issue for the issue for all for BAPPENAS. I think how to connect the policy direction that already put in our national priority, and how the local government implement and support the direction. I think since we have our national priority and have the national targets that has to be supported by local government, I think this is become the entry point of the connection. And whoever the people in the subnational level, I think since they have to support the same priorities, I think this is we have to do both at national and subnational level. And for this COVID, for example, the direction from the president is really, give direction to all the provinces, and they implement. And of course, we have to provide the best guidance, and also a role model, and also how to really provide what intervention and assistance to the local government, so that the national and subnational level could really support each other. I think that's my answer, Pak. Thank you.
I see that.
I think I will add something.
I see that my colleague Deborah has raised her hand, I think.
Okay, for the Dr. Parani, I think for Indonesia, related to the region, in general, we have a mechanism to balance planning from the central government with the regions through the Muslim Bank. I think we can use this to improve our planning. Silakan kalau masih ada yang lain, Bapak Ibu. Is there any question? More question?
Ibu Valerie mentioned about Miss Deborah.
I had not raised my hand.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. I see a hand somewhere, but I don't know because I'm on my phone, so I can't see really. So maybe Pak Rory, you should help us on who has raised their hands.
Sure, I will try my best. I saw Mr. Junardi raise his hand. Is that correct, sir?
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Pak Liu, and also Madam Valerie Julian. My name is Junardi, Indonesia Global Compact Network, and thank you for the briefing for today on this UN BAPPENAS Sustainable Development Cooperation Framework, and also thank you for the insight presented by the UN and BAPPENAS team. Maybe it's more on the suggestion and comments rather than questions. As you know that during the development of this framework, we have involved various stakeholders, including the business people. And also we made a special arrangement with the business communities. In fact, it was done in the UN office at the time for the preparation and input. So I would like to suggest, if it's possible, we made arrangement, and we are very, very happy to do that, to arrange that, to have a briefing also to the business community through the Indonesia Global Compact Network about this. And I thought this will be very important to get the people, the business people, to understand what is it all the plan between this cooperation between Indonesian government and UN, and also that the business can take a look at this, the priority that we have in the countries, and then the activities, so that they can also adjust to their effort in the sustainable development goals. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Junardi. I would like to comment on this about the knowledge of business people about UN SDCF.
Definitely, Pak Junardi. I mean, we talked about this already in different forums, but with great pleasure, we can organize a session because indeed it is important. As you know, the UN Sustainable Development Cooperation Framework is actually aligned with the government's plan. So it is very important as well that the private sector aligns itself as well with the government's plan, because it's only when we push all together in the same direction that we can make a difference. So with great pleasure, I think it would be very, I would say, useful if we could do a joint briefing, BAPPENAS and us, at the meeting of the IGCN, so that we could really align our priorities. Would you agree to join?
Thank you, Ms. Valerie. Sorry, we missed a bit of your comment earlier because of the connection issue, but we got your point that business people really need to understand about the new framework from 2021 to 2025. Pak Leo, would you like to comment on this? Should business people know and jointly briefed by the government of Indonesia and also by the UN about this new framework?
I think Bappenas agree with this. Saya kira memang ini akan sangat bagus sekali karena ya kita kan pengen sejelas-jelasnya dan pengen semuanya apa yang kita rencanakan itu berjalan seperti yang kita harapkan. Jadi kalau kerjasama sebuah pihak, including business, I think it is better, it is good. Nanti coba kita rencanakan saja kapan kita lakukan itu.
Terima kasih, Pak Leo. Terima kasih.
All right, thank you, Pak Junardi.
Thank you, Valerie. Thank you.
For the question, Pak Junardi. So we still have one slot or one allocation for one commenter or one questioner. If you'd like to ask, please do so. Because it's already 12:15. I believe that some of you have been wanting to grab some lunch, because it is the time, we do understand. But this is very fruitful and this is very important session for you to ask or for you to comment about the insights that we got earlier from a total of 11 speakers, including the minister himself. So if there's any question or commenter for one more person, you are welcome to join us. Okay, we're still waiting for the last question or commenter. If there's not, then I have to end this Q&A session. Pak Leo, Ibu Valerie, thanks so much as always for your insightful thoughts. And it was really powerful speeches, from both of you, Pak Leo as the person who opened this forum, and also Ibu Valerie along with Pak Minister who relaunch or joint launch the UN SDCF. So thank you very much for both of you. So, ladies and gentlemen, it was a fruitful discussion. It was a fruitful forum indeed. And as I mentioned earlier, that you can get all the materials both from the UN and from the government of Indonesia in the link provided. We will put all the materials in the link provided, and be sure for you to access the link for you to learn more or dig deeper about the insights and about the initiative that we launched today. And to close today's forum, I would like to call upon Bapak Leonard to present the closing speech. So Pak Leo opened today's forum, and he is also the person to close this forum. Pak Leo, the time is yours.
Okay. Terima kasih, Pak Rory. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, to conclude this important forum, I would like again to remind ourselves that COVID-19 pandemic had potentially brought severe impact to Indonesian people and hampered the progress of achieving our development target as well as the SDGs. I would like to reiterate the importance for us to continue putting the SDGs at the core of our recovery effort. The key to ensuring that our development response with SDGs 2030 and the Indonesian Vision 2045 is a multilateral strategy and mutual engagement with 24 UN agency in Indonesia with the support of UNRC. We have taken notes of all of your valuable feedback from today's discussion and will make effort to reflect and accommodate them in our next cooperation with the UN agency in Indonesia. Once again, Bapak Ibu, I would like to express my gratitude to all of the eminent panelists, UN colleges in Indonesia, line minister and institution for your active involvement and invaluable contribution. I also thank my colleagues at BAPPENAS and UN Resident Coordinator Office team for ensuring that the preparation for this meeting went smoothly. With that, I conclude this forum and I wish you all good health and productive day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pak Leo. Ibu Valerie would like to add some final words?
You know, I don't want to add some more, just to say many thanks to BAPPENAS, to Pak Leo, to the team. I hope you can hear me. I'm very sorry for the connection problem. And I'm very glad that we went through this forum, because when we put all these things together that we realize the challenges ahead of us. I must say, we have heard about all the challenges we are still facing. I mean, the different speakers have highlighted this issue of inequality, the importance to keep a focus on people, the issue that the fact that we need to be innovative in the face of adversity. And it is clear that we need to harness the potential of everybody in the country, of the young people, of the women, of the private sector, of everybody, in order to be able to really achieve the SDGs. And I think many speakers have also highlighted the issue of resilience to future shock. Once again, we have to really learn the lessons of COVID. So I would say, as I started my speech talking about the steadfastness and flexibility, I think that I just want to make sure that we continue with these two principles, because it's the only way we can also ensure that all Indonesians can enjoy fully their human rights and live a life of dignity. And I really thank the government of Indonesia for the trust they place in us as United Nations to support you in your efforts. It's really an honor for us to work with the government of Indonesia and to support the development of the Indonesian society. There is so much potential in Indonesia, and we are very pleased to be a part of it. So thank you very much for this and for the trust. Terima kasih banyak.
Terima kasih, Ibu Valerie. Terima kasih, Bapak Leo, and to all speakers and also Minister Suharso Monoarfa. Thank you very much for this session, and thank you for you who have joined from 10 a.m. until now. Thank you very much for joining us. But before I let you go, ladies and gentlemen, there's a poem or traditional poem from Indonesia called pantun or pantum in English. This is quite challenging for me because I have to translate it into English and to maintain the AB rhymes at the end of each sentence. So hopefully I won't spoil this, and hopefully this will leave a good impression on you about today's forum. Jangan tebang kayu yang basah, don't cut wet trees. Buat masak tak akan beres, to cook it won't work. Selamat jalan, selamat berpisah. Goodbye for you all. Semoga semuanya semakin sukses. Great success coming ahead to you all. Once again, ikan lele. Oh no, this I couldn't translate this one. It's too difficult. Okay, this is the last one. Memang manis si buah rambutan. Rambutan is indeed sweet. Enak dimakan secara perlahan-lahan. Good to eat slowly, hey? Apabila ada sebuah pertemuan, if there's a chance to meet, pasti akan ada juga perpisahan. There will always be a goodbye. So thank you very much. Hopefully I didn't spoil that, but it shows our friendliness and our closeness in doing collaboration between the Indonesian government and also the UN. And I do really appreciate for having me in the session. So Ibu Valerie, Bapak Leo, and friends from the UN and also from BAPPENAS, thank you very much. I'll see you again very soon, and thank you for joining BAPPENAS-UN Forum on Development Cooperation. Goodbye. Stay safe and stay well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Scalia.